My wife has been talking to an ex. What should I do about this? I tried not to make this too long, but I think I failed at that. I'm in a situation that I just don't know how to handle and don't have anyone I can talk to about this. My wife is pregnant with our first child, and we are scheduled for her to be induced this week. I love her so much, and I've been looking forward to this for a long time. We have known each other for a very long time. I was 13 when I met her. We were friends for many years and became very close, despite long periods where we lost touch, but didn't become romantically involved until much later. We have now been together for about 7 years and married for 3. We are in our early 30s. A few days ago she said she needed to tell me something, but I will be mad, but she wants to be completely honest with me. She said she texted one of her exes about a week before. The way she describes it, it was an accident. In a way, she was in a conversation with her friend, somehow he came up and she wanted to test to see if she still remembered the number. Turns out she did remember it, and it was in fact him. She said she did text back and forth for a bit, but it was completely innocent. She didn't really give me any details of the conversation, and I didn't ask. Honestly, I didn't get mad, and I really did believe her and trust her. However, it did make me feel a bit uneasy. Honestly, I wasn't really sure how I felt, and so many other life things were going on I didn't really have the time or energy to really process it. A bit more context, she was never exactly in a relationship with this guy, but was hooking up with him and was good friends with him for a while when she was younger, before we were ever together, during one of the periods where we lost touch. She has told me before that out of everyone she's been with, he's the only one she really cared deeply about other than me. She has told me many times that she has loved me and wanted to be with me since we were young, before we were ever actually together and even before she knew him. While I'm the only one she's ever truly wanted, he basically is in second place. Also, 4 years after she was hooking up with him, but still before we were together, there would be periods where she would start talking to him again after long periods of time, and I believe they even hooked up again a few times. It wasn't until we officially got together that she finally cut him out for good. Obviously, he has been a sore subject for me given their history, and she promised me she was not going to talk to him again now that we were finally together. That was about 7 years ago. To make things worse, he was married the whole time when they were hooking up, and still is, now with kids. Even aside from the fact that I feel threatened by him, I just don't have any respect for him based on the fact that he was cheating on his wife that whole time. It has also always bothered me that she was willing to be with him despite that, she was literally the other woman. Granted, I don't know him, but I feel like I know enough to know he is not what I would consider to be a good person. Now this is the part that I'm not exactly proud of. This was weighing on me for a couple days after she told me. I got curious and looked at her phone when she wasn't around. At first, I didn't see the texts, but I checked her trash since deleted texts can be recovered for 30 days, and there they were. At first it was pretty innocent. He was confused and surprised she texted him, and she told him she's not really sure why and didn't expect the number to even be right, but she admitted she was curious how he's doing since he's an old friend she really did care about. She also made it clear upfront that she wouldn't let anything jeopardize our relationship, and if he can't maintain a platonic discussion she'll have to retreat again. They talked for a bit, and he was actually pretty complimentary of me, saying things like she ended up with a hunk. Although it was a little weird because they both admitted to stalking each other from time to time, looking each other up on Facebook and things like that. That's how he knew who I was, and what I looked like. As I read on, however, it made me more uncomfortable. It wasn't long before he was asking her for pictures, prego pics, and she even took a couple and sent them to him. They were just of her face, but clearly she was trying to look good. In one of them she has a lollipop in her mouth waiting in the doctor's office, and he said something like "Still have an oral fixation I see," and she replied with something like "Yeah, always." She wasn't exactly playing into it, but not shutting it down either. For example, he would say something like I wasn't that good anyway, and she'd say I won't comment on that, indirectly implying he's wrong, but she can't say that. But then I kept reading, and they didn't just talk for a little while. He proceeded to text her every day, and they would talk some more, specifically during the day, while we're all at work. Then he'd go dark in the evening, and on the weekend, presumably because he would then be home with his family, and she'd be home with me. This has been going on now for about 2 weeks. He initiates it each time, but they continue to talk throughout each day. She did not tell me this was an ongoing thing. And the boundaries of the conversation get pushed more and more. They both asked each other new things and kinks that they're into since they've been together. They've talked about fantasies, and she even said she's always been curious about having 2 guys at once. He joked back he'd be down, and she replied with my husband's head would explode. She said a few things like we'd have an affair to remember and things along those lines. As I read on, it really seemed to me to be crossing the line, despite her telling me she didn't and wouldn't, and despite her even telling him that up front. Maybe we all have different definitions of crossing the line. But I'm just not okay with this conversation. It's enough that she's talking to him at all, platonic or not. At one point, he straight up told her I'm going to go home and look at porn, and even asked her for suggestions on what to watch, and she gave him a few. Clearly he's getting off to these conversations, and she is not shutting it down. In their conversation, she's even told him the town where we live, which makes me extremely uncomfortable that he knows where we are. He travels a lot for work, so it's likely he passes nearby fairly often. Before a concert a couple nights ago that we went to, she even asked him if he wanted to go since we had an extra ticket. I assume that was a joke, since clearly I was going as well, but still very weird. When our relationship first began, I had a lot of insecurities because she has had a lot more experience than I've had, and she's a few years older. She's been with some very bad, abusive guys, and has gone through phases of promiscuity. Over time, I feel that I've matured and let go of all of that insecurity. I've come to trust her completely. From the moment she brought this up to me, I feel like that is now falling apart. I feel ashamed that I looked at her phone, and have been now every once in a while to see the new updates to the conversation. She has no idea. I don't want to be violating her trust, but knowing about this ongoing conversation, I really feel betrayed. I want it to stop, and I want him to be gone. But I don't want it to be because I made her stop it. I want her to do it on her own accord. We are literally hours away from having a baby, and I want to focus on that. We have had a very difficult year, some good things. I got promoted twice in 1 year and we bought a new house, but also some very bad, including an initial pregnancy where we lost the baby at 17 weeks, which was very hard on us both. I know it's been rough for both of us, and I know I haven't been the best I can be. I've been so stressed out, and in many ways depressed, and at many points I'm sure I've been unbearable because she's just as stressed as I am and I've just added to it. But I've felt lately like the smoke is finally clearing, and now this happens. I don't know what to do. I want to talk to her about this, but I don't want to tell her I've been looking at her phone. If I bring it up, I wonder if she'll end up telling me the truth about all of this, that she's still talking to him, and some of the details of their conversation. I honestly can't remember her ever really lying to me. It would be a very hard conversation, and I just don't see it going well. She knows I would not be okay with some of the boundaries they've crossed in the conversation. She would never be okay if I did something similar, and I never have, and never would consider it. I'm not sure what I'm looking for exactly by posting this here. I feel like I needed to get this off my chest, and I guess I could use some advice. I'm just lost right now. How should I handle this situation? Comment. Your number one priority is getting evidence of that conversation. All of it? Take pics with your phone or do a screen record on her phone and send it to yourself. You're in shock right now, but you need to be smart about this. If you don't get evidence, it will become a giant regret of yours. When you think the time is right, approach her and tell her you've been thinking about what she told you, and ask her to go into detail about their conversations. Make sure you do this after you have copies of all of the messages. If she lies to you about what was said, then you know whether you can trust her or not. If she lies, start thinking about how to protect yourself. She's an adult and she knows what she's doing is wrong. Remember that. Don't be an idiot, man. Play this smart. Do not feel guilty about reading the texts. Your wife is having an emotional affair. Since the due date is so near, just tell her you are uncomfortable about what she told you and ask her to please cut all contact with the guy and block him. You should also take screenshots of the texts for later. This can wait until after the baby, but his wife absolutely deserves to know. Contact her after the baby arrives and let the cards fall where they will. Hold off on doing anything until the baby is born, and you are settled into somewhat of a routine. Do not cause additional stress on her right now, as it can affect the child, and your wife. Do what others have said and keep the information. If it were me, one day when and if she is wanting sex, I would shut it down and say we need to talk. Then I would pass her the printed off text messages. I would calmly say, I am uncomfortable with this. And I am not happy and I want to know what you are going to do to fix this. Then I would say nothing else. If she gets on a privacy kick, I would simply say, you have absolute right to privacy, but it is secrets and lies that destroy relationships. Then I would be silent again. So she's obviously still really hung up on this guy, and they both carry some sort of flame for each other. She's lying to your face, has never cared that this man is married, and now it's obvious she doesn't care that she's married either. Cheater's gonna cheat. Liar's gonna lie. I would confront her about this right now. Tell her you read everything. It amazes me, even though it shouldn't, how people claim to love someone and then lie straight to their face with such conviction.